Ukraine in Europe. Accession talk starts as of today. Mark Rutte, new NATO Secretary General, and why it is no boring job. Russian spiders in the jar. More Russian generals fired and fell. Good afternoon. All these topics in more detail in today's daily wrap-up on UATV English with me, Henry Keane, as usual, doing my best to break the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Let us recall the important milestones along the way. Ukraine applied for EU membership at the end of February 2022, only days after Russia launched its full-scale, unprovoked and unjustified aggression. The Commission presented its opinion on the application in June 2022, and Ukraine was granted EU candidate status by all EU member states that same month. In Ukraine, this created a powerful reform dynamic despite the ongoing war. With strong support from the people of Ukraine, of course, on 14th December 2023, the EU leaders agreed to open accession negotiations with Ukraine and reconfirmed their commitment to continue strong support to the country and its people as long as it takes. The Council of the EU has been invited by the EU leaders to adopt the negotiating framework once Ukraine completes the relevant reform measures set out in the Commission's recommendations from 8 November 2023. The EU didn't only wait for the recommendations to be put to life. The Union was provided significant financial assistance to Ukraine. Since the start of Russia's war of aggression in 2022, the EU member states and financial institutions have mobilized almost 100 million euro in support to Ukraine and its people. This includes 50 billion euro for Ukraine's overall economic, social and financial resilience in the form of emergency microfinancial assistance, budget support, emergency assistance, crisis response and humanitarian aid. In addition, military assistance measures amount to 32 billion euro and 17 billion euro, respectively, has been made available to help EU member states cater for the needs of Ukrainians fleeing the war. Here is the Ukrainian roadmap to Europe. 28th February 2022, Ukraine applies for EU. 23 June 2022, the Council recognizes the European perspective and grants candidate status to Ukraine. 8th November 2023, the Commission recommends that the Council opens accession negotiations with Ukraine. 14th December 2023, the European Council decides to open accession negotiations with Ukraine. And then, finally, the day D comes, 25th of June 2023.
That today the European Union opens accession negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova. We stand at the threshold of a significant and transformative moment for these two countries and for our Union. The people of Ukraine and Moldova have demonstrated their unwavering commitment and determination to be part of this project. Even in a time of war and turmoil, they have started extensive reforms. They know that their journey will be rigorous and demanding. The accession negotiations are designed to prepare the candidates for the responsibilities of membership. And this is why there are no shortcuts. We embark on these negotiations in a strong spirit of openness, engagement, and commitment.
There's still some way to go for us in Ukraine, but there is nothing in this world that encourages someone who walks the path of hardship, war and uncertainty to see the goal he's walking to right in front of their very eyes. The outgoing Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte secured the backing of all 32 NATO allies, with Romania the last holdout announcing its support. Finally, the incumbent Jens Stoltenberg is due to step down by October 1st. Rutte, who has been running the EU's fifth largest economy for 14 years, is widely praised as an effective consensus builder, while also showing resolve in supporting Ukraine, including recent Dutch efforts in training Ukrainian pilots to fly F-16 fighter jets. But even for a seasoned politician as Mark Rutte is undoubtedly, the next chapter of his political career won't be a walk in the park. Here are the top 5 tough topics he'll have to deal with, as Politica puts it. The possible return of Donald Trump, NATO skeptic. If Trump gets back into White House, it could, or better said, would deal a severe blow to NATO allies' credibility in helping Ukraine defend itself against Russia, given that US has by far been biggest military aid donor to Kiev. Trump is not only NATO skeptic, by the way, he's very much a human values skeptic. Common sense skeptic, international law and economic skeptic. The only thing Donald Trump is not skeptical about is Donald Trump himself. And that is a problem for Rutte and for the world. Putin's winter attack on Ukraine is number 2 problem. The Kremlin playbook is not new. During the first winter of wartime between 2022 and 2023, Ukraine's power grid was severely attacked. The key, says outgoing NATO chief Stoltenberg, lies in more air defense systems that could protect energy supplies as well as maintenance staff working to repair damaged facilities. As soon as Rutte enters office, Ukraine will be calling him for aid as winter approaches. Well, I have a way out of this problem. Help Ukraine win faster and save lives, money and time. Problem number 3. Getting NATO members to pay up. NATO this week celebrated a record-breaking number of allies reaching the 2% of GDP target on defense spending. 23 of them. Indeed, the Netherlands just passed the threshold this year after years of failing short. But this means a third of the alliance is still not hitting the mark, despite making that pledge, actually, 10 years ago. If not Russian aggression against Ukraine is going to do that, then I don't know what will. Problem number 4, eastern flank, grievances. Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas didn't enter the NATO top job race after being told she would not get the support of countries such as the United States, France and Germany. She's now the front-runner to be the next EU foreign policy chief. They feared that appointment would be seen by Moscow as an escalation in hostilities. It not only sounds funny, it is funny. I see the main challenge for Rutte here is to make NATO actually acting as NATO and not as Moscow backlocal. Number 5, Europe's Putin-loving leaders. It's not just Trump whom Rutte will have to convince to keep NATO alive and well. Across Europe, NATO skeptic and Putin-loving far-right parties are blossoming as usual with populist parties. Rutte, of course, knows the story all too well. His own Dutch centre-right People's Party for Freedom and Democracy member Geert Wilders, when asked last year about his view of Russian leader Vladimir Putin, told Russian propaganda outlet RT, I quote, I applaud him as I applaud Mr. Trump for being leaders who are standing there on behalf of the Russian and the American people. Well, what can I say here? It's best here to quote Politico again, as it cannot just be said better. One thing Rutte does not need to fear. His new job won't be boring. Within the Russian intelligence service, FSB, a fierce struggle between various groups for several high-ranking posts is onwards. Russian spiders in a jar, if you will. Someone, Sergei Beseda, has left his post as head of the 5th Service of the FSB, which specializes in scouting within Russia and in the countries of the former USSR. It's not so important who took his place as the fact that Putin relied on the information provided by this particular 5th Service, headed by Beseda, when deciding on a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, no less. It later turned out that the data was untrue, largely and very many ways. In particular, Putin was confident that the Russian army would not encounter serious resistance on its way. So now Putin is stuck between reality and fiction, thanks to Sergei Beseda. He was accused of the complete failure of the service activities in the Ukrainian direction. Previously, some media outlets even wrote about Beseda's arrest, but this information was not confirmed. This is not the only enforced change in the Russian enforcement agencies. This summer, Alexei Sedov, who heads the 2nd Service of the FSB, the Special Service for Protecting the Constitutional Order and Fighting Terrorism, that is, in fact, against Russians themselves, but will leave his post. However, in this case, most likely Sedov was reminded of the terrorist attack in Crocus Hall. There is not much to discuss here, actually. All I can say here, there will be more Russian generals falling. Maybe even expect reining Russian generals as soon as all the Western weapons promised and delivered and fired. That's it for today. Thank you so very much for watching. Stay updated. Comment, like and subscribe to UATV English channel for more news directly from Ukraine. Your voice and support really matters. Thank you. Goodbye.